Audio Jungle.
St. Elizabeth Police probing death of New York pensioner found unresponsive at guest house. The police in St. Elizabeth are probing the death of an elderly American man who was found unresponsive at his guest house in Black River. He has been identified by the police as 85-year-old pensioner Carlton Roberts of a Mount Vernon, New York address. Roberts was reported at the guest house when about 6:50 a.m. on Wednesday when he became unresponsive. He was transported to Black River Hospital where he was pronounced dead. Reporters understand no marks of violence were observed on his person. The U.S. officials in Jamaica have been informed about the matter. Portland woman injured in crash in St. Ann dies. The police in St. Ann are investigating the death of a 68-year-old woman who succumbed to injuries she sustained in a crash on Tuesday. The deceased has been identified as Shirley Phillips of Port Antonio, Portland. Reports are that about 7:15 p.m., Phillips was a passenger in a Honda BRV motor vehicle. Upon reaching a section of the main road in Party, there was a collision between the car and a truck. Phillips was injured and assisted to the hospital, where she was admitted. She later died while undergoing treatment. The 23-year-old driver of the truck has been warned for prosecution. St. James Police urge public cooperation for Reggae Sunfest 2025. Commanding Officer for St. James Police Division, Senior Superintendent Aaron Samuels, is calling for cooperation from the public as the parish hosts the 2025 staging of Reggae Sunfest, which has already started with no major incidents reported. In a statement issued on Thursday, SSP Samuels welcomed patrons to St. James and the internationally acclaimed music festival and outlined key safety measures that will be in effect throughout the event. There are designated parking areas that we want you to utilize to ensure that your vehicle is safe and will be under constant security surveillance, SSP Samuels noted. He warned that motorists who park on the roadside do so at their own risk. If you park on the roadside, you stand the risk of your vehicle being towed or stolen. We cannot guarantee the safety of your vehicle if you do not utilize the designated parking area, he stated. Also, when you park on the roadway, it allows for the roads to become blocked as it may become a hindrance to vehicles utilizing the roadway. Festival goers are also being reminded to remove valuables from their vehicles and to make use of the authorized parking lots. As part of efforts to ensure public safety, the police will be conducting searches at the entrances. Samuels stated that offensive weapons will not be permitted and warned that anyone found in possession of such items may face prosecution. We will be ensuring that every person entering the venue is searched, and if offensive weapons are found, you are liable to be arrested or the weapon confiscated, he noted. Provisions have been made for licensed firearm holders with storage facilities available at the venue. If you are a licensed firearm holder, there is a provision made for storage of your firearm at the venue, and you can collect same when you are about to leave, SSP Samuels explained. He encouraged patrons to arrive early to avoid traffic congestion and reiterated the Jamaica Constabulary Force's commitment to maintaining public order. Festival Night 1 is going to be a big one, and we're encouraging patrons to come out early and ensure that you find the designated parking areas to avoid the battle of traffic on the road, he further noted. We will be committed to your safety by ensuring that we have adequate police personnel working throughout the duration of the festival. We are also ensuring that we have additional patrons in the streets, especially in those hours that you are leaving, so that you can have police presence as you sojourn throughout the division of St. James. PM Holness says Jamaica must avoid what he termed the vicious cycle if the nation intends to achieve growth. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says Jamaica must avoid what he termed the vicious cycle if the nation intends to achieve growth. He made the statement at the handing over ceremony of 93 buses to the Jamaica Urban Transit Company. According to the Prime Minister, the vicious cycle happens when governments have to borrow to satisfy the needs of the population but end up using the money borrowed to pay back loans. He explained that this cycle eventually leads to bankruptcy. The Prime Minister said governments, therefore, must maintain fiscal discipline even when faced with political pressure from citizens. Dr. Holness opined that Jamaica can be steered away from the vicious cycle through increased productivity. He called on Jamaicans to play their part, noting that growth is the sum of increased productivity of every citizen.
So if we don't improve growth, then what will happen is that the demands that you have based upon your own aspirations and ambitions will create a political pressure on governments, whether it is this one or another government, to break fiscal discipline in order to try to provide the things that you want. But we have been that road for the last 50 years, and all it has gotten us into is economic problem. Because in order to provide the things that you would want, with the political pressure brought on by elections and other considerations, governments then tend to want to borrow. They will tend to run deficits. They will tend to want to spend what they have not earned. And that puts us into economic problems, which then prevents us from getting the things that you want in the first place. So the only way to prevent that from happening, this what I call a vicious cycle of government saying they're trying to provide for the people, making all kinds of promises, not raising the money through growth, going on borrowing it to finance development, and then have to pay it back. And in order to pay it back, they have to spend less on the dreams and aspirations and visions of the people, and you end up in a vicious cycle till you become bankrupt. Notice how I've put it. You, the people of the country, also have a responsibility in how the country is run. So leaders have to be very careful and strategic not to fall in the populism trap. I'm saying this because we are in an election mode and we are seeing where the populism trap is emerging. Now, to get growth, you have to focus on productivity. When we talk about growth, the individual doesn't see themselves in growth. Growth is something that the economy does. But that's not the case. Growth is the sum of your increased productivity. If everyone is growing, everyone is doing well, everyone is producing more, our economy grows. So then the challenge for the government is, how do we get every single Jamaican to produce more?
Reducing absenteeism is essential to achieving equity in education systems, stated Minister Dixon. Minister of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, Senator Dana Morris-Dixon, says reducing absenteeism is essential to achieving equity and transformation in Jamaica's education system. This is such a big deal because when our children miss school, it really impacts their learning. We cannot talk about quality education if students can't get to school, she emphasized. The minister was speaking at a school leadership conference for principals and other senior educators from Clarendon held at the Bahia Principal Hotel in Runaway Bay, St. Ann on Tuesday. She pointed out that many students in rural communities continue to miss out on school due to limited access to transportation. You'll be surprised how many children are not attending school because they don't have access to transportation. We have to look at these environmental issues that are impacting education, the minister noted. Morris-Dixon argued that addressing some barriers is critical to realizing the ministry's mandate of inclusive and quality education for all. We're serious about ensuring that all our children can benefit from the education system, not just some. There are things that we must put in place so that quality education we are talking about is accessible to every Jamaican child, she emphasized. The minister further outlined that educational equity must be determined by geography. When we talk about education transformation, this is what it means. It means that a child's zip code should not determine whether or not they can attend school or succeed, she stated. As part of efforts to reduce absenteeism among students in remote and underserved areas, the government is rolling out a rural school bus program in September designed to provide safe and affordable transportation for students across the island. Phase 1 of the program will see 60 refurbished school buses deployed in September, with an additional 40 buses scheduled to arrive by January 2026. The initiative will initially benefit students in St. Thomas, St. Catherine, and Clarendon, that is expected to serve more than 258 rural schools, with further expansion to over 850 schools. Students will pay a flat fare of $50 per trip, and approximately 328,000 students will be provided with reliable transportation to school. In St. Thomas alone, 7 buses will be assigned to serve 10 schools under this initiative, helping to ensure the geography does not become a barrier to consistent attendance and educational achievement. To subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.